Is Pokemon just for kids? As an adult, can you be involved in Pokemon? Should you be involved in Pokemon? So I received an interesting YouTube comment, and I get these every so often, not all the time, but every so often. And this one really sparked this video. So shout out to this person because this is where I got the idea for this video. ArtFX9 says, it's a game for children. So all of this makes me sick. Now, if you didn't know, that was actually from my most recent video talking about how the market has been slowing down or crashing, or however you want to say that. I think the most obvious answer and probably the easiest is to say, yes, it's designed for kids. That being said, that doesn't mean that's where the discussion ends. And so I do want to further that discussion and look into, is it really that simple? I wrote down a bunch of questions. And the first one is, if Pokemon is just for kids, why is it priced for adults? Take this ETB, for example, the new Phantasmal Flames ETB, or really any ETB that you want. Is this priced accordingly? I remember when I was a kid, toys weren't really that expensive. So why is it that it costs $55, $60, maybe some places $65 just starting at these stores? Now I know Pokemon doesn't exactly control all the stores and what they do, but surely they could cut them off if the prices were too high. There aren't too many items that you could simply, as a child, someone under 10 years old, walk in and purchase some Pokemon. I mean, I guess you could save up and get a pack or two, and that's cool. Is that really going to quench your thirst though? That's arguable, right? I mean, my son, I could pretty much fool him until about 6. And then thanks to the iPad, which we'll get into at a later point of this video, yeah, that was it, man. He kind of knows what the good cards are and are not. And so when he gets one pack, as soon as he hit like 7, definitely when he was 8, he was like, oh, I didn't get anything again. It wasn't like, wow, I'm so happy, I'm so glad, because he knows what an Umbreon is. He knows what these evolutions are, or the Charizard SIR. He knew about it before I knew about it. Anyways, it's not priced for a child, really. The only people who can afford this are adults. Now, you could argue that, yes, you're going to buy that present for your kid. Touche to that, but just keep in mind, really nothing is priced for children. Opening Pokemon packs also has a high level of gambling, meaning you just open it and 99% of the time you get nothing. And every now and then you get something fairly decent. The gambling aspect for it, kind of weird. It's basically a loot box that we all just kind of overlook because it seems like, wow, this is fun and this is cute and this is for kids, right? So think about that. In fact, it's actually so bad that Pokemon Center themselves, when they launch product, it's like they don't want the kids to get it. And this is because they launch it during school hours and also when most people are working. If all the 9 to 5 people are working, which is most of the US at least, I can't speak for other countries, and the kids are at school, and who's really buying this product? Now, of course, you'll get that occasional person who gets lucky, but for every person that gets lucky, there's probably 100 or 1,000 botters that have picked up the product. And no hate to anybody here. I'm not here to judge what you do or don't do. I'm just identifying who the customer actually is, and it's not children. Another point I would like to bring up, that a lot of things start off for kids but grow into something more. What I showed you there was a comic book. Now, comic books originally started for kids, Superman and your Batmans and all these golden age comics, very old stuff, kapow, wha-bam, right? That was for children. Then eventually that evolved more, and so you had the Silver Age, as it's called, and you got characters like the Amazing Spider-Man, and then eventually these other characters spawned off. And so yes, it did start off as like a kids thing, but eventually we got to the Avengers. You ever seen the Avengers? Have you ever seen Daredevil? Have you ever seen the TV show The Punisher, right? And you can see a lot of adults got into it, and a lot of them started when they were children. Does it sound like Pokemon at all? I don't know. That's really up to you, but I do think, yes, the initial idea was for children, but that eventually, those people grew up. Look at me. I started when I was a kid. I grew up in the 90s, man. It was awesome. It was arguably the best time to be alive was in the 90s. And oh man, for Pokemon at least, the greatest days. I've also heard the discussion of the rating for Pokemon, which is E for everyone. Now you could argue that literally means everyone. You could also argue that it's just safe for younger kids, but it's kind of crazy for you to say this isn't like a family thing for sure. And I think a lot of people want to market it as that, which it is. I open up so much Pokemon with my kids and we have such a great time. It's really, really an enjoyable experience for our family. But to say like I can't be a part of that, like the adult people can't be a part of that, it's this kids thing only. only, it's crazy because, yeah, what are the age restriction? What are the age limits? A lot of people say that online, like, oh, that's a kid's game, man. But do you not understand that we started as kids, and maybe some of us fell out of it when you got into like high school or a little bit older, and some people never quit. You know, I think the YouTuber Kira always mentions that she actually never quit. And so yeah, you became a Pokemon fan and you stayed a Pokemon fan, and then you loved it so much that you gave that off to your kids, you know, and you want your kids to be involved in it. It becomes like a big family thing. It's really cool. So then I wondered, okay, what about the player base? Now I did Google this. Depending on when you look at it, it'll change a little bit. It might say 32, 33, but just for fun, humor me. The median age for Pokemon Go, a very popular game for Pokemon on the phone, is about 33. So then I was interested in figuring out, okay, maybe Google can tell me more about the player base, because this is supposed to be a game that you actually play. Now, I know a lot of people collect it, including myself, but what about the age of the player? Pokemon surely cares about the player, right? It says it's around 30, once again being older people and not young adults. It does mention that this varies with a large portion of players being in their late 20s and early 30s due to nostalgia. I'm not saying that there are no kids interested in Pokemon. I'm just saying that most of the people are you and I. If you're watching this, let me know your age. If you're not 18, please don't answer that. But if you're over 18, let me know your age. I'd be really interested in hearing it. I want you to think about something. In a world where only children could buy Pokemon, do you think Pokemon Company would do really well? Do you think Nintendo would do really well from this? No, of course not, right? Because this isn't like 25 cents, 50 cents, $1, $2. As any other toy, generally, you're going to have to get the adult to buy it. So you've got to have some interest in it a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I think the days of going to Target, picking it up just because your kid wants it, you know, things were very different when we were young. We didn't even have the internet back then. Definitely didn't have a bunch of phones walking around, and you didn't have a lot of options. So when you got off school, you would watch Pokemon, you would watch Dragon Ball Z or whatever, in that order. I do think it was in that order. You know, there wasn't a lot of distractions out there. You could go outside and play, of course, but there was just the Game Boy. And then besides that, there's no other entertainment. There's no iPads. There's no distractions. There's no crazy TikTok and YouTube shorts and other things to distract you. Where now Pokemon is definitely not a lot of kids' main interest. I mean, they might, if you're lucky, watch the TV show. I've tried really hard with my kids, and every now and then they'll watch one episode. But then guess what? Their short attention span, now they're back on Roblox. It is really hard to compete with Roblox. It is not their entire world. That's what I'm trying to say. They might be really interested in it. You know, I come home, I get the 6-pack, and the three of us, 6-pack, that sounds kind of funny. We get the 6-pack of cards. We open up 2 each, me and my 2 kids. And then that's pretty much it for their Pokemon journey. They're good. They're good until the next time they go do something else, and they like that. They want to see that dopamine hit. And it's not the same as it was when we were kids. I definitely don't think most children's world is Pokemon, even if they're a fan of Pokemon. Something else to consider is children. How often do you see them at a card show? I can tell you, when I go to card shows, I probably go to like 20 a year, give or take, in the outskirts of Richmond, Virginia. And I'm here to tell you, man, I might see like 4 kids, maybe 6 at like a really big event. Even when I went to larger places like Collecticon, yeah, they had more kids, but they also had, you know, 20, 30x the amount of people, but there really weren't that many kids around. I think a lot of them, you know, were older, just like myself, late 20s, late 30s, sometimes people in their 40s. I welcome everybody. I don't care if you're 60 or 100 or 1,000. It's cool. It's interesting. It's art. It's fun to be around. Something else I wanted to bring up is, do people think they're tricking their kids? Now, like I said earlier in the video, when they're really young, I mean, dude, you can give them an EX card and they're excited, or a common card, or give them a pack or 2, and that feels great, you know, when they look through it and they're like, oh my God, I've never seen this card. And that's cute, right? When they're really young. But then the kids start to get more on their algorithm. It starts to show them the top YouTubers, and it starts showing all these rip and chips and other things. And now they're seeing cards that I've literally never even seen in my life in person. And they're like, Dad, did you see this one? Did you know this is coming out? And so then when you give them a pack or 2 and they don't get a big SIR, they don't get a hit. This is as they get older, right? Like, at least for me, like I said, around 7, definitely 8 years old. And now my kid's 9. Like, it's got to be a big hit. And so like, if it's not a big hit, maybe he's spoiled. You could say, I don't know, everybody's kid's a little bit different, but look at it and go, Thanks, Dad, for trying. But it's not the same as when you get like a Flareon, you know, like that's a huge hit and he knows what it is. You're not fooling these kids, even if they put a smile on for you. They are mostly aware as they get closer to 9 and 10 what the big hits are. So you can fool them when they're super young, but you're not going to be fooling these kids, man. They're a lot smarter than we were when we were young. Now, listen, I understand what stems a lot of this conversation, which really stems this video title. You know, people want to go to the store, pick something up for their kids. I totally get that. I mean, I've been there, man. Like, it would be nothing cooler than going into the store, picking it up when you want it. Everybody enjoys it, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be happening anytime soon. Besides frustration from parents and just trying to afford these things. I mean, they're unbelievably expensive. Believe me, I get that. As someone who sells Pokemon, I try my best on my store online to sell a little bit under market. Unfortunately, you know, I can't get the best pricing, but I always try to do a little bit of a discount for people. It's not much, but we do what we can. If you're frustrated, believe me, I totally get it, and you deserve to be frustrated to some extent. I mean, there's definitely some ways to get Pokemon. You know, if you want to go to the store, like I said, it's probably not going to happen. It might be possible for like one single product, but if you're really trying to get the SIR, you know, if Pokemon is such this kids game, why are things so hard to get? You know, even if you get a Phantasmal Flames ETB, there's only 9 packs, right? Just if you buy one. So the chances of you getting the Charizard is roughly 1 in 400 packs. So like even at $7, I believe that's like almost $3,000. Let that sink in. You got to spend roughly statistically around $3,000 to get that Charizard. So yeah, you know, you might stick to your gun and say, I'm going to only pay MSRP. And that's awesome. And when you get your 6 packs, 9 packs, 10 packs, and then you don't get what you really want or your kid really wants, you'll kind of know why. And so it's a shitty setup from Pokemon. If they really cared about just the children, I think they would make it much easier hit rates. I think it'd be like 1 in 50, 1 in 30 for some of the good stuff. Yeah, you could get an IR. I get that. An illustration rare, you know, you can pick up some of that stuff. But at the end of the day, as your kids age, they are aware. And it's tough, man. I have found strong difficulties, dollar value, collectability, and just having fun. I've always tried to preach that with my kids. Be thankful that we're even opening these packs. And they acknowledge it and they say, yes, I get it, Dad. But at the end of the day, now that they know what the good cards are, they can't hide that. They know deep down inside they didn't get that crazy chase card that Pokemon has made near impossible, such as the gold card. If it's just a kid's game, why do we have this crazy hard Charizard? I think the answer is pretty clear, that it's not just a child's game. You might say that, you might think that, but at the end of the day, the actions speak completely opposite, and it is also definitely highly collectible for Pokemon. If you like me making videos in the office as opposed to the garage, definitely let me know. I haven't done one in a while in this chair. If you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, I do appreciate all of you, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. DJ's Poke Center, signing out.